Hey, it's Enigma Hood. And today we have yet another imbecile who flunked out of criminal justice class, or should have, because they demonstrate that they don't understand criminal justice. But most disconcerting is who doesn't understand criminal justice. And that is the district attorney who is prosecuting a criminal case in which a police officer named Peter Liang, he shot and killed a black man. His name is Akai Gurley, and the district attorney's name is Ken Thompson. Now, that Liang was already found guilty of the charges that were levied against him. But the piece of shit prosecutor decided to go rogue at the last minute, and now he is recommending only house arrest for this guy who murdered this young man. 5 years probation, which consists of house arrest. So he's not going to face any prison time. And his excuse is that this case was about justice, not revenge. Which is by far the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. That is nothing more than a platitude. Now, by saying this, that justice is not about revenge, if anyone ever says this, they don't understand what justice is. They are morons. Criminal justice in America includes revenge. Now, this is not my opinion. This is not how I personally feel. This is why we do it. And if you don't believe me, allow me to educate you with a citation. All it takes is just a quick Google search. Type in, why do we punish criminals? Here's what one citation says. And this is at the top of the list. Retribution or revenge. A crime is considered an act that not only injures the specific victim but also harms society. A person's harmful acts may outrage the society as a whole. This gives rise to a desire for revenge, and punishing the criminal tends to satisfy that need. Additionally, having a person punished by society provides some measure of revenge for the specific victim of the act. If society provides an adequate punishment, the need for an individual to seek revenge personally is diminished, and providing incentive to seek retribution through law enforcement. In some instances, laws require restitution to the victim. Criminal law is generally reserved for vindication of society, and often a victim will need to file a separate civil lawsuit to recover damages. So, did we get everything here? It's not just about revenge, but there's actually more to it than that. Inside of this need for revenge, it has a tendency to discourage vigilantism and encourage people to seek out retribution through legal means, through law enforcement. Because if people take the law into their own hands and start engaging in vigilantism, it destabilizes society. Now, you can have your opinion about whether or not it's right, revenge is right or wrong in specific instances. But revenge isn't necessarily right or wrong. It's a desire. And then the courts are supposed to then analyze the situation and determine whether or not there is a crime, and to seek out and determine who is responsible for this crime. And then to punish them for their misdeeds. And the punishment needs to be commensurate to the crime. So, whenever you hear some idiot who says that this is about justice, it's not about revenge, or that's not justice, that's revenge, they do not understand what justice is. They are complete fucking morons. And most disconcerting in this situation is that this is a fucking lawyer who doesn't understand what justice is. What, did you flunk out of criminal justice class in high school? You learned this in criminal justice in fucking high school. I took a criminal justice class both in high school and in college. In both classes, this is what they taught us. That we analyze why, before we can even talk about criminal justice, we have to talk about why we do it. Why do we punish criminals in the first place? Now, that's not to say that there aren't other reasons. There are. There's general and specific deterrence, and there's a difference between the two. And if you don't understand what the difference is, please look it up. Then there's also sequestration of criminals from society. There's also rehabilitation, although you could argue that, putting someone in jail or prison isn't very effective at rehabilitating people. So these are just some of the other reasons why we punish criminals, and there are other reasons as well. But the number one most important reason for why we punish anyone is out of a need for vengeance. Not necessarily from the victim, although that is, again, part of it. But it's from public. It's from the public domain. We instinctively feel like this is wrong, and we want retribution. And when our retribution is not satiated, we begin to be disillusioned with the justice system and the government and the societal structure around us. And that encourages us to take matters into our own hands. The classic example is what happened to that Yazidi girl. Many years ago, a Yazidi girl was stoned to death by her family because she fell in love with a Muslim boy. This happened in Iraq. So they honor killed her. And there were police around, standing around doing nothing, while this girl was being stoned to death by her family and the people in that village. And this went viral on the internet, and people were outraged. And then a bunch of Muslims hijacked a bus, told all the Muslims and Christians to get the fuck out, and left only the Yazidis in the bus, and they killed them all. Even though those individual Yazidi people had nothing to do with it. When you don't satiate people's anger and need for revenge in the appropriate way, all you do is you fuel people's anger and hatred into taking matters into their own hands. And that is a lot worse. That is a lot worse. And when you do shit like this, like what this fucker attorney did, it's just going to make people more and more disillusioned in the American justice system's ability to punish those who we hate because of what they did. So, at this point, a little while ago, in the recent elections, there have been some turnovers. The prosecutors in at least 2 districts, I forget exactly where it happened, but there were impotent prosecutors who did not do their jobs. And the Black Lives Matter movement rallied the people of those districts and had them voted out in the election, which is how it's supposed to be done. I encourage everyone who lives in the district, I believe this takes place in Brooklyn, oust this motherfucker. This guy, whatever the fuck his name is, I forgot it already. I think it's Thompson or whatever the fuck it is, Ken Thompson. Oust that motherfucker. Vote him out. He has no place being in the DA office. He has no business being there. He's just trying to protect criminal cops. That's not what we want. We want people held accountable for their actions. And evidently, he should have never been a prosecutor in the first place because he doesn't understand criminal justice. He doesn't understand what justice is. And neither do a lot of Americans, which is unfortunate. They usually use the word justice as a euphemism for revenge. I find there's nothing wrong with the word revenge. It's a perfectly normal human emotion. When we're wronged or when we feel that something has taken place that is unfair or malicious, we want that person held accountable. We want them to suffer for their actions. And if it's very egregious, we hate them. And we're perfectly justified in hating this scumbag cop who killed this guy needlessly. Anyway, that's all I gotta say, guys. This is Enigma Hood signing off.